call the September 5th meeting of the Paducah Planning and Zoning Commission to order and ask that you stand with us as we say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mr. Summer, call the roll, please.
Mr. Benberry?
Here.
Mr. Bradford?
Here.
Mr. Morrison?
Here.
Mr. Ramsey?
Here.
Mr. Shade?
Here.
Mr. Wade?
Here.
Chair Casillas?
Here. Ms. Schramke, I believe you have the minutes motion.
I do. I move that the reading of the minutes for August 19th, 2019 be waived and that the minutes of said meeting as prepared by the secretary be approved as written.
Second.
Second by Shadle. Are there any corrections, comments? Call the roll, please.
Ms. Schramke?
Aye.
Mr. Shadle?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Mr. Benberry?
Aye.
Mr. Bradford?
Aye.
Mr. Morrison?
Aye.
Chair Casillas?
Aye. We have no continuing cases to discuss tonight, so we'll move right along to new business. Mr. Wade, if you would read our first item of business.
I move that this commission receive and file the application of Ryan Massey and Cindy Hart for the proposed re-subdivision of property located at 4021 Valley Road, 4005 South Central Avenue, and 151 Country Club Lane. I further move that the requested waiver of the public hearing and the dedication of streets be given and the approval of the submitted plat be granted.
Second.
Second by Morrison.
This plat is to combine three different tracts, a closed right-of-way of South Central Avenue that was closed in October 8th of 1991. The wooded area isn't planned to be developed. It's just meant to be kept in a natural state for private recreation. Mr. Gardner's here to answer any further questions that you may have.
The adjoiner here that you see at the bottom of your plat, William and Robin Woods, they are going to be the ones purchasing lot 14-B just to add on to their property. There's not going to be another structure put in that place. We have an existing structure on the other one. That one is for sale, and Cindy Hart and Ryan Massey are the ones that are going to try to sell it separately. But this man that lived just down from them at the end of South Central Avenue just wants to buy that property before they sell their property. As you see, lot 14A encompasses all of their improvements. The rest of it, Josh has said, is just woods, and the man that fronts out on Country Club Lane actually just wants to have additional property. He's already bought a little strip, as you see, a 25-foot by 100-foot strip. He bought that a few years ago from him, and now he's going to add the rest of it.
Our staff report says that they're requesting permission to build an additional outbuilding. Is that what the
No,
case?
it's to put it on the same lot. Right
Okay,
now,
gotcha.
it exists on, whenever they move this property line over, it'll be on the same lot at that time.
Okay.
Mike, the only other additional thing that staff had was to show the 5.39-foot property line on Lot 4 to be abolished, and that's on the plat you brought.
Correct. Yes, we have done that.
I guess the reason for not doing anything with that property before, because all the easements in there.
Well, it's got easements in there, but of course it was a street at one time. It just got closed several years ago. South Central Avenue actually connected and went all the way through, dedicated. It just never was improved. So the owner, since they own on both sides of it, had to get closed by ordinance 2C91-10 and 4683, and then by the circuit court order. But yeah, it does have two easements going through it. So I mean, you can't build over that part of it anyway. It's got a utility easement, then a sanitary sewer easement. both 15 feet wide.
Are there any other questions or comments? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Mr. Benberry?
Aye. Aye.
Mr. Bradford?
Aye.
Mr. Morrison?
Aye.
Mr. Ampe?
Aye.
Mr. Shadle?
Aye.
Chair Casillas?
Aye. Mr. Morrison, you have the next item of business?
Yes, ma'am. I move that this commission receive and file the application of David and Kelly Dixon for the proposed re-subdivision of property located at 3735 and 3745 Niblick Lane. I further move that the requested waiver of the public hearing and the dedication of streets be denied and approval of the submitted plat be denied. I further move the following findings of fact be adopted in support of said denial. 1, the character of Niblick Lane will be changed as single-family homes are constructed on one lot. 2, the rhythm of the neighborhood homes will be disrupted. 3, the City of Paducah Comprehensive Plan states a goal is to increase population. Reducing the number of buildable lots in the city is adverse to this goal. 4, the neighboring and nearby single-family lots are approximately the same size as the lots in question. 5, there are no unusually large utility or drainage easements that impact the amount of buildable area on the previously combined lots. 6, the characteristics of these two lots are inherently different than previously approved waivers in Westwood Hills.
Second.
Second by Wade.
Staff did have some concerns with this waiver. As mentioned in your findings of fact, one of the things that we're concerned about is the eroding density in Westwood Hills. Since October of 2015, there's been 3 waivers done over time all along Westwood, and all 3 have been approved. As you get back further in the neighborhood, single-family homes are being constructed on single lots. And that's what this map represents right here. Several of these are under construction, but right across the street, every lot has a house on it. There's a house to the left, a vacant lot where only a single-family home can be built, and then a home to the right. The house that's proposed is 86 feet by 93 feet, and it would fit on just one lot. They only need 88 feet in width, and they have 96.75 feet needed in depth, and they have 167, I believe. A couple of things that I'd also like to bring to the commission's attention is that this waiver is different from the other ones that we've had in the past. All 3 waivers have been in the same general area along Westwood Boulevard. The larger lots were already in existence on the east side of Westwood, and that way there wasn't any characteristics that would be changed along Westwood Boulevard. At the time we received these, the latest being earlier this year, we weren't aware of any others. Due to higher amounts of traffic from the connection from Bellevue to North 38th Street, this is an increase in a desirable building location. There were drainage easements that restricted the amount of buildable land. The 2 lots that we're looking at tonight can go either way on Niblick Lane, either left or right, whereas on Westwood, you can only make a right out or go to a connecting street to turn. So those are the reasons that staff has recommended denial, and I'd be glad to answer any further questions you have, and Mr. Gardner can answer any further questions that you have as well.
Do y'all have any questions from him before I start?
Yes, just is a simple question, but you've got number 5 in the staff report. I read off 6 instead of 7. There's some reason why the view shed of Niblick Lane would be adversely impacted was left out.
That should have been in there,
Okay.
actually.
Know if something changed in your thinking, or?
I also have a question. Number 2, can you clarify what staff means by the rhythm of the neighborhood will be disrupted?
As of right now, there's a single-family home on all 4 lots on the south side, and there's 2 on the north side. And when you're driving along the street, your eye catches that single-family, kind of a higher density characteristic of that. If a single-family home was built on these 2 lots, I would imagine in the center, then you're going to have dead space between each home on each side with a larger side yard setback, which disrupts that characteristic.
Particularly if you do, as is intended, townhomes, which tend to have a higher density.
Yes.
I do understand that.
The townhomes are only proposed on the backside.
But still, nearby, it does.
Would the home not be built in the middle of the
That's what I'm
proposed
assuming.
to be abolished property line lot?
Is that,
Correct.
There'd be equal distance between the lot line on either side of the house, so it'd be centered on that larger lot.
Correct.
Yeah.
It would appear to me that the lots 14 and 15 are either average or above average for that section. Would that be a correct statement?
yes.
So therefore, to me, it would be a logical conclusion after that, that even those lots that face Pines Road at some point would be sought to be combined and disrupt the entire original intent of how the subdivision was platted.
When I spoke to the developer, just in his future planning for this, he isn't intending to re-subdivide that, but build over the property line at this time and put a firewall down the middle.
You're talking about for the townhomes?
Yes.
That would be along Pines Road and Country Club, perhaps.
That's my understanding at this time. Of course, that could change, but that's what he verbally told me 2 or 3 months ago.
But I see this as perhaps creating a precedent that would allow those smaller lots to therefore be monkeyed with, for lack of a better term.
Can you refresh my memory? When we examined last time, and we were examining this, was it anywhere in any of the materials that it was considered yay or nay on buying, as a buyer, I'm going to buy 2 lots with this intent?
Not in this location. The other lots that came before you all, that started in 2015, I believe, we did do a careful analysis.
Right.
And we found that based on view shed, traffic counts, drainage easements, that those did warrant a waiver at that time. Whereas these 2 lots in question doesn't have any of those things that would warrant a higher lot area.
No, I get your logic. What I'm talking about is the developer's logic, and the buyer's logic.
Okay.
Was there anything in the agreements between buyer and developer that you recall?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
That's Mike,
I have some for this particular lot here.
You have some
Yes, sir.
agreements between
Yes, sir.
the buyer and the developer that I'm going to buy 2 lots?
Correct. They've already bought 2 lots
Yeah, I understand. But I'm buying the 2 lots with the understanding
to make them one.
to make it one, and the developer says, good deal.
Okay, that's kind of like
Now,
the,
the developer actually did not want to sell them 2 lots because
Okay.
he's losing money on it. The only thing is, these people are coming in from Nashville. They want to live in Paducah, and they have it's been appraised at $1 million home. It will not fit on one lot. I don't know where they're getting the figures. I have the plans right here. It's an 88-foot by 10-inch wide house with a garage on the side and a 30-foot driveway coming to that. So there's no way that could be put on one lot. It's simple math. We've got
Right.
100-foot lots in that particular area. You take away 8 feet on each side, you've got an 80-foot wide lot. So an 88-foot by 10-inch wide house won't fit on an 84-foot lot, taking away the building lines, and then also having a 30-foot driveway to get to the garage. Now, this house is going to sit not facing Niblick Lane. It's going to face perpendicular, where the people will actually, their front door will be facing, as you look at it, left to right, not in front.
Well, it appears to me then that they bought the wrong lot or location if they want to build that large of a house. I mean, this lot will not accommodate that large of a house. So that's kind of an after-the-fact thing. Well, let's
that's why
buy
they
the
bought
two
two
lots
lots.
and let's decide we want this house, and then let's get planning and zoning to.
Now, they had the house, but he couldn't get it on one lot. I mean, he already knew that.
Exactly, but that's what I'm saying. They
So they
had
bought two
the
lots.
house that they wanted that won't fit on this lot. So therefore, they went
Right.
ahead with buying the two lots, assuming there'd be no problem with us changing lot lines, et cetera. That's what
It's
it
very-
sounds like. It's
very
kind of like
common
these
for people to do that.
situations we have that people put up signs and then come to us afterwards. That's
Well,
what
they
it
hadn't
feels
built
like
the
to me.
house. That's why they're coming to you now to abolish the line before they build the house. But it seems to me that, I mean, it's not only just the house, but I mean, they have a pool that's planned on this property. They have a pool house that's planned on this property. You have to stay away from the left side because there's a retaining wall there. And the landscape of the area wants you to keep as far away from that particular lot line as possible. So that's why they're trying to put the house in the middle so they can put the pool and the pool house on the right-hand side of this
I
property.
understand, but they're also trying to put a house that's too large for the lot that is available for building.
The developer has no contract with the city saying these are individual lots, correct?
No. What constitutes that, Mr. Benberry, is the recorded plat at the courthouse.
And it's not there. It's nothing from originally when they started subdividing these lots. We don't have an agreement saying there's going to be one house, every lot as it is.
That's what I'm saying.
That might have been with the previous owner, though. This is on the second owner of the subdivision.
This was bought out of
Well,
bankruptcy
I
by
mean,
Steve Mills,
Right.
who's trying to make a go of it. He's, as Josh has said, he's had many other lots that he's abolished. He plans on doing just about all the rest of them the same way because he can't get that type of house that people want in this particular neighborhood. He can't squeeze them in. So,
Well, you know, if I were the single-family residents across the street from this, I'd have a little problem with it because I put up my single-family residence according to the size that I could get on the lot. And I don't know that I want that across the street from me. I think it
but I don't understand why
drive-
anybody would want to turn down somebody coming from out of town that wants to build in the city of Paducah and would turn down $1 million home just because they want to have a little bit bigger lot. I don't understand it. It looks to me like even if they wanted to buy 3 or 4 lots and build a large home and pay taxes on $1 million home, why would you deny and make these people go out in the county and build where they don't have to abolish a line?
Guess it's all about following the rules.
Josh, what's the staff's thinking on just that very thing? If I'm looking for 200-foot lot and we continue to go down this process, are we pushing, what is the staff's idea?
Well,
How do we accommodate people that want?
which would we rather have, $1 million house or 2 $400,000 houses?
well, density is always something that staff leans toward because more people living in the city means you get 2 property tax bills. You have 2 different families attending the schools. you have two different families going to the mall. That population density, whenever you bring that up, tends to bring up the economy instead of just one person or one family, I should say, living in the middle of one lot. So staff's thinking is in line with the comprehensive plan, meaning to try to get our population out of that decline that we've been in for 20 years, maybe longer. And so whenever we receive waivers, we have to think of it in that context as well. Is this going to further the comprehensive plan, or is it not going to further the comprehensive plan? And that's how we have approached this.
I think it's really, really common for people to buy multiple lots and combine them into one larger lot to build a house, and maybe not even a bigger house, but just in a different configuration. And I think it's been very common practice for years for the Planning Commission to approve those. And in fact, for us in the past year, we've gone against the staff multiple times, recommending that we say no to a waiver of subdivision. It really concerns me that we're continuing to get these negative recommendations, because to me, it tells me that the staff is really prioritizing the population density issue over private property rights. And in my mind, the priority is opposite of that. People can buy two lots, and if they so desire, they can abolish the lot line in between them. And if the city wishes to deny them that right, we better have a very good reason. And I just don't, it's been my position in the previous application or the waivers of subdivision that we've overturned, that the reasons given were not sufficient to deny that private property right, and that's still my position today. So when this comes to a vote, I'm going to vote against the motion as proposed.
And I look at it totally opposite. I look at it like there's homes already there that it followed the rules, built the type of home that was meant to be on those lots, and I think we really would be changing the
I
whole
remember on the
idea of
last one,
what it
that's
was
why,
planned.
excuse me. On the last one, that's why I want a clarification on this precedent. If there is a precedent between developers and the city, okay, we're going to take 2 acres and we're going to divide it into 200 lots. And people are just going to build a shed on every lot. Or somebody's just going to buy all 200 acres and build whatever they want. And either of those is allowed. But is there any understanding between the city and developers as a precedent of what we now are seeing about population density?
I don't know if it's so much of it as an understanding rather than more of what needs to be a re-education or an introduced idea that says, hey, we need to start going by our comprehensive plan that has been adopted to increase the city's population, stop the decline, because when we do that, we have a positive impact on the economy here in Paducah. And not saying $1 million house wouldn't, but whenever we get that population density up, especially in this area, the local businesses do tend to have a positive impact off that, as well as the regional trade center as a whole. So as far as an understanding, whenever we approve a subdivision plat, a major plat with roads and streets and all that infrastructure in there, we are approving that with generally the idea that each lot means a home, unless it's dedicated for a park, unless it's dedicated for right-of-way, unless it's dedicated for a detention pond. The understanding going in approving that plat is that each lot means a single-family home unless platted otherwise for townhomes, duplexes, or what it may be.
And then through that, the infrastructure is paid
Yes.
over time. And we went through that all last
If-
time.
If there's an agreement in place. If there's not an agreement in place, that's something the developer incurs that cost if there's not an agreement in place.
Did this developer or the original developer receive any city incentives for this?
Not that I'm aware of.
if you go out there, I mean, on this paper, on this plat that you have in front of you, I mean, it looks nice and flat, but I mean, if you deny it, no matter what you do, lot 15 by itself would never have a house on it because of the lay of the land.
I know it does fall
Yeah, it
off.
goes down. It won't
Do you
have
have
a
any
house on
pictures
it.
or anything with you?
No, I don't have any pictures, but I mean, you're welcome to go out there and take a look at it.
There's
I hate to delay the
two.
decision, but, yeah, they didn't really, it doesn't help me with the rolling of the land as he's describing. These two pictures.
I just remember it from when it used to be a golf course
Yep.
and how it lays.
But I mean, the developer, Steve Mills, of course, bought it in bankruptcy from the first. It was designed for another group who told the developer told the engineer, get as many lots out of this as you possibly can. That happens all the time. I have to have this many lots to make it work.
It's
At
still-
that time, they were going to have different size homes in this particular property. Now, as Steve is starting to build, he's starting to build obviously larger homes, more expensive homes. Every one he builds is fairly large. And like I say, he's going to lose lot 15 no matter what. So he was able to sell lots 14 and 15 to these people who just want to use the land. They're not really going to use lot 15 except for just a front yard because that's pretty much all they can be used for. Their house is going to be built in the middle and everything else is going to be in behind it, such as the pool, will be built on lot 14. And then they'll have a front yard of lot 15, which is the one that's pretty much unbuildable. So in Steve's mind, he's just trying to sell lots. He bought the place, but when a developer comes in and they buy it for so much money, what they do is work out the details of how much money they've got into it, how much the infrastructure is going to cost, such as sewers, water, things like that. And they'll tell a land surveyor, I need so many lots out of this. So they'll divide it up, knowing a lot of times by the lay of the land, it's going to be very difficult to get homes on this particular lot because some of the lots have slopes, some of them go back either left to right or back away from the road. So in this particular case, he's got lot 15 that really nobody's going to ever build a house on. Was fortunate enough that he talked these people into buying these two lots, and he wants to build a large home there, $1 million home on two particular lots, and one of them's never going to have a house. So he was very fortunate to get that for it and be able to use a good lot, as lot 14 is, to use the house and most of the improvements and have lot 15 as his front yard and only have part of the house on it. So
Does lot 16 have a residence on it at this time?
it does. It's the one that has the retaining wall right down the side of the lot, which is what he's trying to stay away from as much as possible because of the way the lot slopes.
And let me make sure I understand. You keep saying lot 15 is going to be the front yard?
Yes,
So
because
the
the
front of the
house
house
does
is
not
going to be-
face Niblick. It faces,
Lot 16?
correct. Because see, the house is so deep.
Right.
It's 120-something feet long. So it will actually face away from the road. Your front door will be perpendicular to Niblick Lane. Which I've got some plans here if you'd like to look at them. That's up to you.
Not
Understand?
for us to
Yeah, I'd like to see them.
decide, but
Okay to come see them, or
Well, I
how
can
we
bring
want to do?
them.
Would everyone like to see them?
I don't.
I'd like to
I
see
do.
it.
I think it comes down to, well, the point I'd like to make is that I agree with the intent of the comprehensive plan, that population growth of the City of Paducah is something that needs to be dealt with, but I think we're going about it the wrong way. I don't think that denying people the right to build the home they want on the lots they own is the way to get a reputation that we're being friendly to our citizens and that we're going to have people wanting to move here and build homes if we continue to deny people the right to do with what they want on their property.
kind of what we do all the time. I mean, you can't build a mobile home on, just because you own the land, and, I mean, that's kind of the whole idea of having the restrictions and having planning and zoning is to restrict and
Well,
to,
Hope to in a
The
minute.
original developers came with a plan for the subdivision, and it's becoming clear that that's an untenable plan. The market has changed, and so I think we're fooling ourselves if we think that this is going to be the final result.
This is not the scale of this.
The two corner lots, Josh, in the, like in the bend of Neblet, the frontage looks to be
So he's put it this way.
similar to what proposed. I know the ones across the street show
wait a
single
minute.
family
I'm-
residence.
I'm interested in hearing what you're saying, and I'm sorry, but I can't hear over the other conversation. So, hey, guys.
Can we hold on for just a second, Mr.
Just in the
Senator has
corner where it
comments.
says single family residence across the street, the one, I'm not sure what lot it is, it looks to be narrower, but the ones in the corner look to be the same frontage as what's being proposed. If you go around to where you can see right in the very bend of the road, both of those those lots look to be the same frontage, so it seems like it would be keeping the same land usage, yes, like those two exactly. I mean, I don't know if you'd be changing the character of the resident area because of the frontage of each one of those two as well. You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the property, it may not be 3/4 of an acre, but just the frontage looks the same, or really close.
More on that.
And
It could
Mr.
be.
Benberry, I'm not sure what that frontage is on that lot, but
One of them could be actually more, is what he was bringing up. So, I mean, the character of the neighborhood could be argued both ways if you look at it that way.
We have done several of these in this particular subdivision, and he wants to do several more because he's just having a hard time getting the money from the lot and building the type of house that people want. Now, these people aren't moving up from another house. They're wanting to come in out of town. So this is new people wanting to come in, and I mean, they really didn't understand this because they didn't really understand why the city would deny them from buying 2 lots and building $1 million house. It's just they couldn't comprehend why the city of Paducah would turn them away. And I'm kind of in their same position. If I was coming into another town, we've done this for so many years, and I've developed so many subdivisions. I did not develop this one, but when you do it and a developer tells you that, all right, we've got 40 acres out here, I want as many lots as possible. If somebody wants a bigger home, I'll sell them 2 or 3 lots. They do that every time. I've never had that not said to me when I've designed subdivisions. They've always said, I need so many lots, you get them out of it, no matter what you have to do. And if they want to buy 2 or 3 lots, that's no problem. We'll sell them to them and we'll build them as big a house as they want. That's gone on, and I've done this for 40 years.
Market is the final determinator.
Correct.
I understand that. As much as I'd like to say, hey, we need to stop this and stay in the plan's not tenable. I mean, the plan of the original developer.
Correct.
So I think, I tend to agree with Paul and Mr. Bradford, and then I fully expect we'll see more and more requests similar to this.
He would like to in this subdivision, yes.
Mike, do you have plans on the drawing table now for more waivers
Yes,
that, in this neighborhood?
yes.
I just think the staff needs to look at, just my opinion, what's the option? If I was building a house again, I built one in 98, my house is 80 feet long, what would be my options to stay in the city today? So if we continue down this recommendation, just really saying we don't want this in this area.
When was this originally platted? Early 2000s?
Sounds about right, 2001.
The market has obviously changed in 10 or 15 years of what they originally, and of course, the original developer obviously shot and missed and went bankrupt.
Well, the
I
other
mean,
question.
from the city standpoint, for recommendations, what is the option for people that want to move in or want a larger home to stay in the city, to keep them in the city?
Simple answer to that is to find a lot that would accommodate the house that they'd like to build. There are times and places to abolish property lines, which we've done certainly in this neighborhood, based on where the location is, based on drainage easements, based on view sheds, based on a variety of different things. But to start to erode density is something that we are trying to turn around, and that's something that the comprehensive plan points us to. So whenever, like I mentioned earlier, whenever we have a waiver plat come in, we look at that under that scrutiny from the comp plan and how that direction wants to take us.
I have a question, something that you said. You said 2 houses won't fit on those 2 lots. Is that true? Have you seen the lots? I mean, why is lot 15 not buildable?
Because of the terrain.
Because of the drainage?
Slopes down, it'd just be
The
very
terrain,
difficult.
I'm
for
sorry.
Steve.
Have you seen that,
That's what he
Joe?
was telling me.
Josh, do you
Yeah,
think it's
and-
buildable?
There is a hill there, yes, that it slopes up, and you can kind of tell on these pictures, it does slope up, but the house immediately to the right was built at the top of the hill, and the house to the left in the corner, there's not so much of a hill there, but it is at a higher elevation. It boils down to dollars and dynamite to build a house there, for lack of better terms, but
Let me ask you a question. On lot 15, in your estimation, standing on its own merit, is it unbuildable?
That's what I would say, yes.
Well, that's what I was just
Yeah,
asking
I
Josh.
just sort of
If
got
he had
that.
seen it, or does he agree with the fact that lot 15 is
Just on
unbuildable?
its own merit, it's unbuildable.
Yes, sir. That's what Steve Mills has told me, and in looking at it, I agree with him.
Okay, so do you feel it's unbuildable, Josh?
I would say that it is buildable with some earthwork and things like that to be done.
Or it just gets in the economics. Anything's buildable upon
Yeah.
if you're going to throw enough money at it.
Exactly.
Now, your lot 14 also has a 16-foot public utility easement on the right-hand side of it as well. So it cuts down on that as well. People want to stay as far away from the public utility easement as they possibly can. So on both sides, we've got on the left side, we've got terrain trying to stay away from. On the right-hand side, we've got a 16-foot public drainage easement that we're trying to stay away from as well.
It reads 20 foot on here. What I'm looking at, 20-foot public utility easement.
Mine says 16 foot. It's a public drainage easement.
It's on the right-hand side.
You're looking at
And that's-
you're looking down here in the
In
front.
layman's terms, that's a ditch, right?
Right.
I see where you're at.
So they're trying to stay away on the left-hand side from the terrain because of its slope, trying to stay away from the right-hand side because of a public drainage easement. So when you look at these 2 lots, they were designed just, and I understand the designer, it was not our firm, it was another one. But when you're told by the developer, get as many lots as you can, make them 90 or 100 feet wide, that's what he did. It's just that it didn't always, it looks good on paper, it just didn't always look good when you're out in the field, when you're trying to build a house. And that's what we're facing with on this.
Again, I think in terms of precedent with developers in Paducah, it doesn't sound like we have any history here, other than people buy what they want and then come to the commission and expect to be able to move the property line so I can build the house I want. If that's the precedent that has been set.
Well, they've made the
Looks like it.
economic commitment to buy 2 lots. So they've paid the penalty of the fact that I can't build on 1 lot, I got to buy 2 lots.
And the developer knows that these are set up to build certain size houses, and he sold it to them thinking, we'll just get planning and zoning, change it.
Well, it would appear that he doesn't have people standing in line to build smaller houses there.
You know, the way I see it, it sounds to me like maybe the comprehensive plan could be readdressed, because it sounds like we're not up with the times. But on the other hand, this is what we have now. Now, having said that, you just told us that we're going to have a whole bunch of other ones coming before us, too.
He would like to, because
something
he has other
isn't-
people who want to build larger
Something isn't
houses.
right here. Something isn't balancing. I mean, we try to stick to the rules, but on the other hand, yeah, do we want to tell a guy he can't come in from Nashville and build a beautiful home? You know, someplace along the line, we have to get this in sync with the current
Is there any
demand.
precedence to re-plat an entire subdivision? It's halfway here.
We have before, this one we've been doing it one at a time.
Well,
This-
sorry, you'd have to get signatures from every homeowner
Yeah, that's what I
that
was
currently has a lot in there
Yeah.
completely re-subdivided.
So I guess my question is, until and if we can revisit the comprehensive plan, do we continue to just keep overruling the comprehensive plan? Or what do we do? Because it's going to happen, not just that, this time, he told us, you know, he'll be back many times.
Based on precedent, I would have to.
Well, I think
I
staff
don't
would
know
like
if
to
it's
point
precedent.
out.
I think each case is each case. I mean, we did one recently because the lot definitely was unbuildable. I mean, you could not do anything with it. Okay, this precedent, I hear different stories. I don't know if it follows under that precedent. So I think each one is a separate thing. I don't think there's a precedent that's been set. But I still think that each one, we have to overrule the comprehensive plan if we want to follow the rules.
Or recognize that this was a poorly laid out subdivision to begin with.
And staff was going to point out exactly what Mr. Ampe just said, that whenever we have a waiver plat come in, we look at it on its own merits. In fact, the case right after this is recommendation for approval in this very same subdivision, but for different reasons. So every waiver is being looked at from the standpoint is, does this advance the comprehensive plan, meaning the City of Paducah, or does it not? And that's how we're looking at it. And I don't think it's precedence in that sense whenever you have to vet out every single subdivision that we get, because they're all going to be different and all have their own merits.
What is your opinion, Michael, of what will happen to the value of Lot 13?
Looks to me like it would make it go up higher.
By having a comp that's $1 million house, I think it'll go
No,
up.
but it's going to be, I'm assuming, a 100-foot property in between a big house and a regular size house.
Yeah. Well, and another question I have, which is just confusing to me, is this future townhome areas. If the lots are that valuable, then why are you building townhomes? I mean, if I
I
had
don't
$1
know if that's
million
what it's gonna do.
house here, would I really want townhomes behind me and one lot over from me? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's what he's gonna do.
Okay, well,
He
that's
hasn't
what's
built
on our
it
thing
yet,
here.
so.
Oh, I think that's going to come back and want to be bigger lots.
Well, the one that's coming after this is the same situation. It's a lot in this particular subdivision, and he happens to own more land in behind it, and he's adding to the lot to make it bigger. He's making it one lot, but he's adding it to it so he can build a bigger home. And that's the one that's coming up after this. That's simply what he's doing here. He's building one big house on two lots, one that's gonna have a difficulty and it's gonna cost thousands of dollars to get it in shape for anybody to build on. And also then with the one that he is building most of the improvements on, he's trying to stay away from this public drainage easement that's on the right-hand side. So he's taking two lots that have a little bit of problem with them, and he's making one good lot kind of out of the middle of it, and then he's using the rest of the lot that's not desirable, he's using as a yard.
But at what point do we let the developers know that they can't sell lots and to people that are going to build a bigger home with the assumption that, sure, we'll just change it and we'll make it all better? I mean, we have rules. We need to, if our rules are bad, we need to change our rules.
But for
But
years and
currently, we
years,
have
we've
rules.
developed these particular subdivisions for the developer. We've designed them, and they have been for years and years able to come back before the commission if somebody wants a bigger lot or a bigger house, and they've been able to abolish their property line. That's been going on for years and years.
I don't look at property lines as rules either, because at one point in time, this was one big unsubdivided
Yes.
tract of land. And the developer, the person who bought it, decided, I want to make a lot like this. He went to somebody, a surveyor, and asked to have it split up like this, and then came to us and asked for permission to split it up like that. And we said, okay, let's do that. He could have just as easily said, I want this 12-acre tract to be split up into 4 3-acre tracts.
But the
and draw
city
that line.
approved what he presented. The city,
Well, yeah.
which makes us back to the rules.
Yeah, well, I just still don't consider that a rule because can be changed. We do that every day. I mean, that's one of our most common things that we do
We
is
do it
we
a lot.
change the lot lines on lots. And I look at it realistically. If there's somebody that wants to build a home that large in the city limits of Paducah, in a convenient place, in a nice neighborhood in town, what options do they have? They don't have
Find
any.
a lot that fits the house they want to build.
There are not any. There's not many options of lots in the city limits that's convenient in this location to do that. So then their option is, okay, well, if I can't get a lot that I want in the city, I have to go outside the city and build in the county. We're cutting off our nose to spite our face by taking this position because all we're going to do is cause developments to be more popular outside of the city limits where they're not telling you no.
I agree. My only concern really that this is that Lot 13 is going to end up being an orphan because of that drainage easement down the west side, and it is right up against another one. So I think that short-sightedness for the developer to, hey, I've got this one sold, but I'll never sell 13.
And then they come back to us later and say, well, I can't sell this lot, so I need to add it into somebody
So it
else.
goes back to my comment earlier, this is a poorly designed
Add it into the one
subdivision to
behind
begin
it.
with.
And this isn't how you educate developers. By
But he's
saying
not the
you
developer
can't.
that started this.
I got that.
He stepped in to try to make lemonade out of a basket full of lemons.
I'm good with that. But I understood comment earlier from staff, Summer was saying that we want to educate developers moving in that direction so that they understand this plan, the comprehensive plan.
Any new major subdivisions that we get in will be platted and taken into consideration at the market at the time. Obviously, it's for larger homes now. But whenever we have waivers that come in for these smaller subdivisions, they need to understand, and the comprehensive plan isn't just for developers. The comprehensive plan is for all 26,000 citizens of Paducah.
Right.
And understand what our goals and objectives are, and how do we get toward that. And it's not only population, it's housing, it's economics, it's transportation, it's all those things. It's how do we, with every decision we make, no matter how small that is, what is going to be the overall overarching impact that we're going to have on the city. And that is what, whenever we get new subdivisions in, that we'll be taking a look at is for like a major subdivision, is this going to advance the comprehensive plan or is it not? It'll be treated and thought of in the same way that a smaller waiver would be, is how is it advancing the city or is it not?
So certainly, those 26,000 folks have a right to step in and say, I think this is a good or bad idea. In the process of this application, the adjacent property owners within a radius were notified, correct?
Not for waivers.
Not for waivers?
No.
Okay.
There is no public hearing requirement for minor waivers.
Okay.
If you want to change this type of thing, I mean, when a new developer brings in a subdivision, normally his restrictions say you cannot re-subdivide a lot into a smaller tract, but it is allowed for a larger tract. That's such the case as this subdivision was here. They allowed that to be larger, lots to be split up. It even says that in the restrictions, but it does not say you can put a lot smaller. So if the planning commission so desires, or the planning department wants to change that, then it needs to be done on the front end, is what I'm kind of getting at.
Basically, we approve the idea of larger lots
Right.
on the front
Because,
end, so we want to agree to that.
I mean, every developer, like I said, unless he knows different, he's going to put as many lots in there as he possibly can, because in the past history, he's always been able to abolish a line if somebody wants
He's
to.
going to try to
Yeah,
until he
but I mean, he's got to make money or he's not going to be doing it at all.
has the original
The
developer.
original owner did not. He
Yes.
was putting smaller homes. He went bankrupt. Steve Mills came in and bought it, and he's trying to build larger homes. He's got a good one that he's ready to build here, but he has to have this property line abolished before these people can move in here. That's the bottom line. He wants to build larger houses in this particular subdivision, whereas the original developer was going to build smaller type homes. But if you go out there, every time he builds one, it seems to be a little bit bigger and a little bit more expensive. Which he's happy because that's how he gets his money.
It makes the neighborhood, the value go up.
Right.
You can ask, certainly.
It's a good problem, I think. I don't think it's a negative problem. Just the reputation that we have for citizens that don't know the process. We want it to be positive so they feel like they're welcome in the city. But also, like Ms. Shrimpke says, also staying within the guidelines we set. So either we need to change the guidelines or address the guidelines in order to make sure we have that friendly face, I would think, from consumers, from residents, from buyers, from home builders.
The sad reality is that sometimes we have to say no.
Sure.
And in my office,
Why don't you ask?
asking,
I don't
when
know.
people ask questions about
I
zoning,
think
or
they have.
can I do this there or that there, build this or that, sometimes the answer is simply no, because it has to be. Protect what's around it. And this, as part of planning and zoning, thought is put into that of how is it going to affect the neighborhood? How's it going to affect the city? So I appreciate what you're saying, and I totally agree with what you're saying. It's just that we have to look at it with that viewpoint of citywide, not just right in its own little world.
Josh, I have a question, and I mentioned a while, kind of touched on it. There are 10 homes already built, single-family homes that are in here.
If
Would it
not
be,
more.
would it be proper to know their opinion of whether they think it's a good idea to have a large building? I mean, I know we gather information, and to me, that's part of important information. I mean, if I lived across the street from this thing, this huge, beautiful home, I don't know if I'd like that. So, but maybe they would. Maybe they feel their property values would go up. So maybe this is information that we could get, do you think? Can we do that?
That, or, and I'm just throwing this out there for discussion, there could be a public hearing held on it, where I can notify the adjacent property owners, or whatever property owners you all would
What do you-
like for me to notify.
What do you all think about
I
that?
can certainly do that.
I have one question, and it wasn't clear earlier, or it went over my head. Have they already made a commitment to buy it, or have they bought it?
They have bought them.
They have bought it, so they
Yes.
own 2 lots.
They bought the
Okay.
2 lots. They're in their name.
So what do you think, Kathy, about it?
Is this area in a subdivision
I-
contract? They
I
have
think if we're
contract
going
with
to
the
determine.
developer?
They have a contract with Steve Mills to build the
It would
house
be
there.
important to know.
No, I mean, the other residents, do
Don't.
they?
I think
Do
so,
they have
too.
like certain?
You know, we're talking
standards
about
that
this
Like the-
community. I
Steve
mean,
Mills has built most every home in there. It doesn't mean he has to. It's his development, but I mean, other builders can come in there and build them. It's just that he's just trying to make a go of it right now, and he's struggling.
I was
So-
going to say, it's sat empty for so long,
It
even
is.
after he owned it.
And he tried to build smaller homes. It did not work.
But I think is there an association or anything in the neighborhood that,
No, I don't know. I've never asked him
You
that.
know, I'm looking for a way to change my opinion. One of the ways that I think would be a good idea is to hear from these property owners. What do you all think?
I don't think there's a vehicle that allows us to turn this into a public hearing.
Josh said you could.
the state statute doesn't necessarily say you have to have a public hearing, but what your motion does read is to waive the public hearing. In order not to waive the public hearing, we would have to have a motion, and Paul, being counselor, put your counselor hat on, let me know, in order to have that public
Sure, that's a good
hearing,
idea.
that we would have to have a motion to do so.
We would certainly have to change the motion that's on the table. I mean,
Exactly.
it
do
would
y'all
have to
think?
be
I want to
the,
hear from the people that live in the,
if we're not waiving the public hearing, then the motion simply becomes that we're having a public hearing on this waiver of subdivision, and that no waiver of the public hearing is being requested.
The only other thing I can add, and I don't have any choice on what you're talking about, but I mean, the developer has told me, the new developer, that he has to do this and build this type of home to make this work. I mean, that's the logistics of it. If he cannot have the option, which he has 3 more on the table to do, then he's not going to be able to make the money. I mean, he just made a bad investment if he cannot do something like this, because this is a nice home. As it stands now, it's never been turned down before when he's done it in this subdivision, and he wants to continue to do it. Like I said, we've got 1 more behind this one. They were adding to it. He just says he needs more room. What he's doing now is not what the original developers planned. It's been around 18 years since it was done. Times have changed. The only way he can make it work is to build larger houses like he's doing. And he's fortunate enough, he has 2 people wanting to come in from Nashville to build in this subdivision because they like this particular area. And he's using 2 lots to build $1 million house. And he's going to make some money off the house. Probably not off the land, but off the house he will.
I think the reason why we normally don't provide notice to the neighboring homeowners and property owners in a waiver of subdivision is that it's generally considered to not affect their property because it's dealing with a lot line issue within someone's own property that they own. And I think I agree with that. I mean, whether or not there's 2 lots here or 1 lot here does not affect the property rights of the surrounding owners. From a practical standpoint, I think if we were to deny this waiver, we'd be doing damage to the city of Paducah's reputation with potential homeowners, people that potentially might move to Paducah, and also with our local surveyors. I think we've already done damage to our reputation with local surveyors as being difficult to work with. I think the city's trying to recover from a reputation of that, and I don't think we're doing ourselves any good by continuing to make things difficult on people when they want to do something. And furthermore, I think the waiver of subdivisions are typically seen as a routine item of business for a planning commission, and I'm kind of baffled that we've had this discussion several times now, because I think generally it's seen as something that is granted routinely, and to continuously come back and debate whether or not to grant a waiver of subdivision is dropping a lot of jaws in this industry.
Mr. Bradford, I completely understand what you're saying, but as time changes, as economy changes, as the city changes, quite frankly, we do have to, as staff, and not only in planning and engineering and everybody else, we have to make decisions that protect the public tax dollars, advance the city, and generally follow the comprehensive plan to keep the best interest of the city at heart. And that's what staff is trying to do. And like I said earlier, even with the smallest decision, how does that impact the whole city? And we certainly don't want to be viewed at as difficult to work with or have a bad reputation, but like I was telling Mr. Benberry, sometimes the answer is no. That I have people in my office all the time that they can't build what they want to build where they want to build it because zoning won't allow it, or there's not enough parking, or there's this, that, or the other. So no is a undesirable thing to give, but sometimes that's the answer we have to give.
I respectfully just have an opinion on that, and I don't disagree with what you're saying, is that if the city wants to move in that direction, I could understand it, but you're talking about something that was built and designed around almost 20 years ago. Times have changed. If that's going to take place, you need to tell the developers and the engineers and the surveyors in advance on what they need to do. But this was done with a different intention, and was done several years ago with the intent that we'll try to put smaller homes in here. It failed. It just did not make it. They went bankrupt. This man is taking it on his own, not because the city pushed him or anybody else, and he's trying to make a go of it. And it's a development that the city can be proud of, but if you're gonna tie his hands behind his back and make him build smaller homes on smaller lots, then I don't think he's gonna make it. And I don't know if he'll ever wanna do it again in the city. I mean, City of Paducah is my home. I love it, and I'd love to see it designed, but this is why he bought it. I mean, he wants the same thing he's had for all these years, is the ability, if he can't get the lot that somebody wants him to build a house on, he has the option of being able to make it larger, abolish a line, and build whatever type house they want, as long as it's larger and not smaller, which is what the restrictions in this particular subdivision require.
Can I go to another extreme, since we're way off? If I had these two lots and I wanted to put a manufactured home on those two lots, what prevents me from doing that?
The restrictions.
Whose restrictions, I guess? The
On this
city's?
particular subdivision plat, there are no manufactured homes are allowed.
Okay. And that's the developers or the cities, or
That's the developer.
that's the developer?
And this is also
So-
zoned R1, which doesn't allow
Right.
manufacturing.
Correct.
Right. So get both those coupled together, why, again, that just brings me back to precedent. Why isn't there something in there that takes care of this as well? And the option seems to have been, buy as many lots as you want, build as big as you want. With exception. We're bumping into something, or we're
The
causing some
developer
other.
platted this thinking, I just want to sell lots.
Yes.
I don't care what you do with them, as long as you,
Yeah.
within the requirements.
The original
But you
thought.
buy as many as you can and build, like you said, buy as many lots as you want, and build as big as you want. And that's what's in front of us today. They did have the provisions about, don't make the lots smaller, because then it diminishes the value of my other lots. So I think
I
we're
got you.
between the ditches on this.
Yeah.
We're trying really hard to move away into a different path, but our path is clear on what we're allowed to do and what we should do.
I think we've debated it long enough.
I do too.
I
I think
think
we
we should
have
call the
too.
question.
I wanted to give everyone the opportunity to
Thank
say
you.
what they wanted to say, and I think we've done that. Is there anyone else that has another comment? Anything else you would like to say? Are there any other motions that need to come before the group before we vote?
Well, is the idea of a public hearing not valid?
I don't need
No
it.
one wishes to do this, nobody wants to discuss it. I mean, I'm fine. If we want to back off of that, that's okay.
Okay,
I'm not
so
in favor of a public hearing.
if
Okay.
I
there,
think that's more dangerous than.
Okay.
if there are no other motions coming before the group, then the way the vote is, if you vote yes, you are voting to deny.
Correct.
If you vote no, you are not voting to deny. But then we would have to come back with another motion to approve. Understand? Okay. All right. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Morrison,
Nay.
Ms. Shramky,
Yes?
Mr. Shadle,
Nay?
Mr. Wade,
No.
Mr. Benberry,
No.
Mr. Bradford,
No.
Chair Casillas.
No.
There you go. after all that, it passed, so that's a good thing.
Now, the next thing we would need to do is, if you want to approve this, we need a motion to approve.
No, what? Approve what?
Make a
Oh,
a
approve
motion
that
to
it-
approve
Got it.
the plat as submitted by the,
Re-subdivision, yeah.
for the subdivision is submitted by the developer or surveyor.
Would you like me to read it again and leave out the denied?
There you are.
Would that
to
work?
approve. That would work.
Turn the negatives into positives.
And the findings,
I move that this, excuse me?
and the findings are not relevant now.
Well, he doesn't have one of them.
Right.
So read it off the other
We
thing.
just, I move that this commission receive and file the application of David and Kelly Dixon for the proposed re-subdivision of property located at 3735 and 3745 Niblick Lane. I further move that the requested waiver of the public hearing and the dedication of streets be accepted and approved of the submitted plat be approved. Approval of the submitted plat be approved.
Be granted.
Be
I
granted.
think we got it.
Granted.
Second.
Granted, yeah.
Is
Okay,
there-
so now
is there
we
a
are
second?
voting
Do we have a
to
second?
Thank you,
Second by
approve.
Benberry, all right.
Now we're voting to approve to abolish the property line.
That is correct. Any other comments, questions? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Morrison?
Yay.
Ms. Shramky?
No,
Mr. Shadle?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Mr. Benberry?
Aye.
Mr. Bradford?
Aye.
Chair Casillas?
Aye. Mr. Shadle, you have the next item of business?
may I make one comment?
Absolutely.
I would like to request that we revisit the comprehensive plan.
Yes, and that was
In
going to be
this-
my comment at the end, but let's go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. I move that this commission receive and file the application of Signature Homes of Paducah LLC for the proposed re-subdivision of property located at 3835, 3845 Niblick Lane. I further move that the requested waiver of the public hearing and the dedication of streets be given and approval of the submitted plat be granted.
Second.
Second by Benberry.
What this plat would do is Lot 42 is a smaller lot that's normally found in this subdivision. The way that the front yard setback is platted is to face an ingress-egress way back to the 6-acre tract. This lot is proposing to be enlarged with the setbacks reoriented so that a house could face Niblick Lane, and Mr. Gardner can answer any further questions that you may have.
This is the lot I was alluding to from the previous submittal. We're calling it revised Lot 42, but we're just making it bigger. It was a lot that was going to be very difficult to build a house on. If it was built on, it was going to be very, very small. At one time, they had planned a road, as you see, where Track A is at 77.26 feet that fronts on Niblick Lane. That was going to be the radiuses to a 50-foot street that was going to be developed down in the bottom on a 6-acre tract. That no longer is going to take place. That's going to be something else done. And what you just got through approving, we'll probably have this developed now, whereas if it had been turned down, it probably would not have been developed. So he has plans for the remainder of the property, but before he did that, he wanted to make sure that this revised Lot 42 can be larger, so a house can actually be built on it and face Niblick Lane rather than face what was going to be a street.
Is there a forthcoming house plan on that, Mike, that you know of?
No,
Oh, okay.
Is that 6 acres already subdivided?
no, it's just what's remaining out of that property.
Here's a good starting place.
Well, it's on a big hill, isn't it?
No, it's in the lowest
It's-
area,
Oh,
right
it's
next
in
to
the
the
lowest
ditch.
area?
Yeah, that's
Okay,
why
well, I
it
didn't
hadn't
know if
been,
it was down
that's
in the
why it
ditch or
wasn't
not.
platted to begin with. He's got a plan for it, though. He at one time was gonna sell it maybe as one whole piece, but I think he wants to do some subdividing and maybe put like some townhomes and things like that down that area. It's just not it's not as desirable of an area as the rest of the
Right.
subdivision.
And if you can answer, is this sold?
Is it sold, the lot? No, he still owns the lot. He wants to build a house, a spec home on there.
Okay.
But he couldn't do it the way it was, knowing that he was not going to build the road and develop that bottom 6 acres.
Good question.
Do you know the value of the spec home?
I'm sure it'd be, no, I don't know what the value will be, but it'd be up there.
$500,000?
Yeah, that's what I would guess. That's what he's trying to get
Right.
to. That's
trying to
that's
get my
about the
bearings.
only way he can make this work.
Those understand, those are outside my decision on this. I'm just curious.
No, that's what he'd like to build on there. Now, the other one, he was building $1 million home, but that's just because somebody else is paying him to do that. Now, he'd like to have $1 million home on every one of them, but there's only so many people who can do that.
Any other questions, comments? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Shadle?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Mr. Benberry?
Aye.
Mr. Bradford?
Aye.
Mr. Morrison?
Aye.
Ms. Shramky?
Aye.
Chair Casillas?
Aye. Mr. Bradford, you have the last item of business.
I move that this commission receive and file the application of Greenway Village LLC for the proposed re-subdivision of property located at 3440 Trailhead Drive. I further move that the requested waiver of the public hearing and the dedication of streets be given and approval of the submitted plat be granted.
Second.
Second by Shramky.
The purpose of this waiver is to create a little over 4-acre tract for a new 12-plex apartment building as part of Greenway Village, and Mr. Gardner can answer any further questions that you may have.
Will these all be single level, or will they be two-story?
Not for sure.
Okay, I just
Uh,
wondered.
2-story.
believe they're two,
Yeah.
ones that are out there.
It's my understanding they're going to match the apartments that's out there now.
Okay, that would be two-story.
Yeah.
We still gotta get one more signature.
Are there any questions, comments? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bradford?
Aye.
Mr. Morrison?
Aye.
Ms. Shramky?
Aye.
Mr. Shadle?
Aye.
Mr. Wade?
Aye.
Mr. Benberry?
Aye.
Chair Casillas?
Aye. If there is no other business to come before the commission, we stand adjourned.